This is Outnumbered. I'm Andrea Tanteros, and here with us today, Harris Faulkner, host of Kennedy on Fox Business. Kennedy, former National Security Council member and veteran of both the George W. Bush and Barack Obama administrations. Fox News contributor Jillian Turner. We welcome her to the couch, and we're always happy to have today's #OneLuckyGuy, Judge Alex, up from down south in Miami, and we remind the judge that you are outnumbered. Welcome back, my friend.
Great to be back. Thank you for having me. And
Excellent.
I'd like to give a shout out to my mom, who unfortunately is hospitalized in Miami. Hi, Mom.
Well, hi, Mom.
It's a bad kidney problem, but she's doing better.
All right,
Best
we wish
to
her the
her.
best, and
Thank
welcome, Jillian. We have a big news day, and we are valuing your expertise. We cannot wait to get to it. Here we go. Donald Trump still dominating, but he may have some company. The billionaire businessman remains the frontrunner in the Republican race for president, while Dr. Ben Carson holds a close second. That's according to a new NBC News Wall Street Journal poll. With the backing of 25% of Republican primary voters, Trump, this is his highest level of support in the poll since entering the race. Carson gets the support of 22%, remaining well within the margin of error. His first-place rival, Marco Rubio, third place, and Ted Cruz and Jeb Bush rounding out the top five. And what may be something of a surprise, look at this. Carly Fiorina, she's at number 6, seeing her support falling from 11 in September to only 7 points now. All right, first let's get to Trump. Judge, what do you think about this? I mean, they have thrown everything they can at that man. He's been involved in all these media back and forths. He's in one now. We're going to talk about that in a minute. He's still maintaining a lead.
He is. He's the ever-ready bunny there. He's just going on and on. But I'm more concerned about the split of people who don't want to support a candidate, whether it's Bush or it's Trump, because the party seems so divided now. And I think it's one of the reasons that I think Biden will jump in, because of Hillary's problems and also because the Republican Party is so divided that I don't know that they can get a consensus, whether it's Trump who ends up coming out or Bush who ends up coming out. There's so much hatred on the other side for people who they feel are either rhinos or establishment or whatever, that I don't know that Republicans can get it together to bring anybody to the winning.
Well, we see this, Harris, with the Republican Party so often. They're always eating their own, whereas Democrats seem to keep it inside the family. I mean, at that DNC debate last week, they barely took shots at frontrunner Hillary Clinton. And people are saying, well, if Trump and Carson team up, they would be unbeatable. I mean, they could just dominate the primary.
Yeah, all we found out is that poor Bernie's tired of those damn emails. Those are his words, Mom. Sorry, I cussed. You know what? To your point, though, Judge, I'm drilling down on the numbers in the polling today, and this really stands out. Trump has gained ground when it comes to whether potential voters would back him, because the big question, remember, early on was people love him, but would they pull the lever? Would they push the button? Would they, click the Chad? Do they? But now, 59% are in that camp that say yes, compared to 47% not long ago. So he's gaining ground for those people who say, you know what, on the big day, I might be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. You guys follow elections much more than I do. I follow people who go to prison, particularly the ones I send there. But in the elections, in the election area, do we see this every election where there are people who say, I'd never vote for that guy, and then they come around later and support him? Or is this something new where people are so steadfast against a particular candidate?
Jillian, I mean, you've worked in 2 administrations. You worked for George W. Bush. This election seems to be different than any other. I mean, it seems to be so anti-establishment, but also the frontrunner usually doesn't maintain this large of a lead for this long. So what do you think's going on besides anti-establishment?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's a crazy kind of combination of factors this year, right?
Yeah.
You've got folks from a diverse array of backgrounds. We, in other years, haven't had, neurosurgeons and reality stars and all business moguls all competing for this, going into the primaries.
Yeah.
And so that's really kind of jazzing up.
And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that a lot of Republicans feel betrayed by the party. That we put you in, you asked for the House and Senate, we gave you the House and Senate, and they feel like you still did nothing for us, so we want new people.
Kennedy, you've been not bullish on Carly Fiorina, but you've predicted, that she would do well in these debates, but she hasn't been able to maintain this lead. She's in the single digits now.
Yeah.
What is it about her? I mean, I've seen editorials. The Daily Beast said that she's, Bush in a pantsuit. I mean, they've tried to paint her
It's hard
as an
to
establishment
define
candidate, but she's not.
Okay, but I'll tell you what it is. It's hard to define what a Fiorina Republican is. People who are fans of Donald Trump, they know exactly who they are. Reagan Republicans, they know who they are. But what does it mean to be a Fiorina Republican? So, what she's had going for her most is her debate performance. But I don't know that she's got the solid ideology that coalesces voters behind her, which seems to be very necessary in this campaign, as Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders are evidence of.
All right, well, we were talking about that war of words in the Republican Party and the one between Jeb Bush and Donald Trump. Well, it's getting more intense after Trump basically blames Jeb's brother, George W., for the September 11th attack. Well, now listen to what Jeb told Sean Hannity last night.
His view of history is just wrong. The simple fact is that when we were attacked, my brother created an environment where for 2,600 days we were safe. No one attacked us again. And he changed the laws, he did everything necessary, he united the country, and he kept us safe. And just a tip of the hat to that, and moving on to what the threats are today is what we ought to be focused on. Donald Trump is not a serious candidate as it relates to foreign policy.
Okay, so I want to go to you on this, Jillian. You obviously worked for George W. Bush. What are your thoughts on what Donald Trump had to say?
I think that Jeb is right about the fact that Donald Trump's foreign policy agenda for this country is dangerous. I think he's a danger because he completely fails to understand and grasp the real constraints that are placed on the executive office. I mean, he's like a kid in a candy store who says, oh, if I was president for the day, I'd give everybody ice cream and everybody would get free gobstoppers or something. There's no reality attached to the idea, and that's the problem.
That was the Bernie
Free
Sanders
gobstoppers, Kendi. That is tough.
I mean, that would get me.
But I do want
It
to
worked for Lamont Hollins in my 8th grade school election. I was very impressed. He said he was going to have chocolate milk gushing from every water fountain. He was elected. He was student body president of Waluga Junior High School. So hats off to him. Maybe it'll work in this election. And I don't only see it from Donald Trump, those unverifiable claims that if I had been president, immigration would have been changed in 7 months and 9/11 never would have happened. There's no way of verifying that. And it's also, it's kind of an unreasonable claim. But at the same time, you're seeing this on the left. All they did during that amateurish debate was promise to increase deficit spending so everyone got free stuff.
Speaking of the left, too, Harris, they are jumping into this as well, and they are attacking Bush and his brother for the Iraq War. Yesterday, there was a piece in BuzzFeed that highlighted that Donald Trump wrote about the warnings of 9/11 in this piece. And Trump doubled down earlier this morning. He said, look, Bush was warned about this, and he didn't protect the country. So who's winning?
Well, it's much more simplistic to me. I mean, the problem for Jeb Bush today is that Jeb Bush is talking about Donald Trump. And now, apparently, so is the Democratic Party. But, I mean, you would expect it from them. They're actually the opposition. But the problem for Jeb Bush is that he's down below double digits in the polling, and he is spending his time talking about Jeb Bush. This is a win. About Donald Trump. Right. This is a win for Donald Trump in terms of the topic. But you mentioned Carly Fiorina and where kind of she has gone. We really haven't seen much of her since she, sparred with Donald Trump. I mean, it's captivating how much of the oxygen in the room that he can take up.
Judge, not even that. He's not just talking about Trump. He's talking about his brother and the Iraq War. And it's not exactly the most popular, not just policy position, but I would say place to be explaining being on the defensive.
I agree. The one thing Jeb Bush is not talking about is the things he would do and the accomplishments he had in Florida. I'm a big supporter of him as far as what he was as governor in Florida. I think he is a good candidate for the Republicans to have, but he can't get that message out there. All of his accomplishments.
We've gotten so far away from that discussion, and every time, I don't even think he's doing a good job of talking about George W. Bush because he keeps referring to him as my brother, which only reinforces that preconception.
Speaking of which,
I was just going to say thank you, Harris. George W. Bush back on the scene on the campaign trail with his brother, and reportedly he had some choice words for some of Jeb's rivals for the nomination, but not who you think. The former president opening up about his feelings toward Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio at a donor event in Denver over the weekend. This is according to Politico. One person at the event saying President Bush said about Senator Cruz, quote, I just don't like the guy. He said that he found it opportunistic that Cruz was sucking up to Trump and just expecting all of his support to come to him in the end. When speaking about Marco Rubio's experience, Bush reportedly saying, quote, he's a young first-term senator. I'm not sure if that qualifies you to be president, Bush reportedly said, according to two people in the room. Of course, if he wins the nomination, I'll be back here next year telling you that that doesn't matter. All right, so we got the brothers, Bush, right? One's bringing it, he's defending the other brother, then he's bringing in the brother for backup.
Keep it in the family.
But he's not going after Trump,
this, to me, is not a coincidence, because when you look at the new polling today and you drill down, who's in third and fourth place behind Trump and Carson? Rubio and Cruz. I mean, it makes perfect sense. I mean, if the former president had, and you would know, is he looking at that polling? You know this man. Would he be the type of person who drilled down to help his brother with that? Hey, look, let's go after numbers 3 and 4.
Heck yeah, I think so. You know, it's an obligation. We all know the Bushes are a very close-knit family. They're very supportive of one another, personally, professionally, all around. So of course he's going to step in. You know, if we ask the question, is it hurting or helping? I don't know, because that remains to be seen. The Bush legacy, the W. Bush legacy, has yet to flesh out.
Jillian, why do you think President Bush didn't defend his own legacy? I mean, he went after Cruz and he went after Rubio, and I was a bit surprised. He didn't go after Trump and he didn't defend his legacy, and that's the story of the day. Why?
My guess, and this is a guess, is that he's over it. He's written a book about it. He's done how many millions of media interviews, press, TV, radio. I mean, you know, we're moving on to 2 terms into somebody else's administration later. I think he's probably ready to step down, let history flesh out.
But it's also a little unseemly to get up there and try to defend yourself. You're already out of the picture.
Yeah,
I agree with Jeb on that. Trump can throw that out there and blame Bush for 9/11, but the reality is you can know that attacks are going to come, and you can be looking everywhere for them. But all the enemy has to do is find an opening.
So why doesn't Jeb say that? Because you're not even running, and you nailed it for you,
well,
right? Why doesn't he say that, or why doesn't he say, you know what, I've asked and answered already? I want to talk about what I would do as president.
Well, he should brush it off and then get back to his talking points, because nobody's hearing about him. They're hearing him defending his brother.
Kennedy, do you think it helps his brother when he jumps in to the race like this?
When George W. Bush jumps in? No, I don't think it helps at all. I think he's probably a good altruistic person, and he's doing whatever he can to help his brother out. And I think it's pretty selfless. It would be very easy for him to defend his record, but then he would shift the story to make it more about him, put his record more under the spotlight, and make things, it's hard to imagine them being more difficult than Jeb is making them for himself, but he could exacerbate the situation.
Very quickly, what's baffling, though, is he did make the story about himself. It just wasn't about Iraq. He made it about the fact that he doesn't like Ted Cruz and Rubio, so he doesn't have trouble making the story about
But it begs the question, is Cruz drafting? Is he really getting behind Trump and just trying to ride that wind?
Well, he's moving up.
He is. All right. Israelis living in fear as violence escalates. Now ISIS launching a media campaign encouraging Palestinians to attack Israelis using any means possible. How to stop the spread of terror. Plus, no felony charges for a Saudi prince arrested at his LA mansion accused of sexual assault. 3 women still suing him for similar crimes. So how his royal status may be protecting a predator? We will ask the judge. And right after the show, catch more from the couch on the web. Join us for Outnumbered Overtime by logging on to foxnews.com/outnumbered and click that OT tab. Tweet us some questions, some comments. If there's more that you want to hear us get into, tell us now, and we will.